how long would you survive against My Hero Academia characters? For example, what if you came face to face against Bakugo? How long would you survive until he just blows you away with his explosions? Well, you could actually survive forever. Well, not forever, we're all still human, but you get what I mean. If you just tell him that you hate Deku, he will actually become your best friend and never hurt you. But, that said, if you irritate him in any way, like telling him that you think Deku is stronger than him, you'd only survive for about 1 second, as he would absolutely blow you away. Now, you get the idea, so let's get into how long you'd survive against all other My Hero Academia characters. And why not start with our main character, Izuku Midoriya? And against him, well, you probably already know how long you'd survive. Forever, of course. Seriously, Deku's way too nice to hurt someone who isn't a villain. And if you just tell him that you love All Might, boom, you're officially his new best friend. So now he'd start talking about everything he loves about All Might, and probably for hours. But even if you were a bad guy, you'd still survive forever, as he would do everything to turn you into a good guy instead of taking you out. Like, if he couldn't get himself to take out Shigaraki to save the world, he would never take out anyone. Another character that you would survive forever against is Mineta. Well, only if you're a girl, of course. He'd be way too busy being a creep to even think about attacking you. He'd probably just try to impress you, so you'd never be in any real danger. However, if you're not a girl, you'll only survive for about 4 minutes. He'll be jealous that you might be in his way of getting a girlfriend, so for about 2 minutes, he will try to hit you with his sticky pop-off balls. However, he will eventually land a hit, and now it's game over. He'll slap a ball right onto your face, covering your mouth and nose. The next 2 minutes are just you struggling to breathe until, well, you're done for. On to the last character that you could also survive forever against, Twice. But only if you're genuinely his friend. Twice, or rather Jinbei, isn't evil, he's just been through so much trauma. So, if you're genuinely his friend, he'd have your back no matter what. But if you weren't really his friend, he'd be so upset and instantly snap into action. Now, you'd only survive for about 30 seconds, as clones of him would start swarming you with no escape. Now, how long would you survive against All for One? Well, I would actually say about 21 years. Yeah, you heard that right. He'd play the long game, slowly destroying your life, which would all be part of his master plan. He'd start when you were only a kid, ruin everything you know and love, making you an orphan and leaving you with nothing. Then, like the twisted puppeteer he is, he'll swoop in and save you, taking you under his wing. But, as you probably already figured out, it wouldn't be out of kindness. He would do all of this just so he could eventually mold you into his perfect vessel, just like he did with Shigaraki. But, by the time you realize what's happening, it's way too late, and All for One would take over your body. Let's move on to Present Mike, and you'd actually only survive 30 minutes at most against him. The moment Present Mike starts screaming with his crazy sound-based attacks, your ears are done for. The constant barrage of sound waves and noise will drive you insane, and no matter how tough you are, you will only be able to hold your ears for about 30 minutes until your arms won't be able to keep up anymore, and his sound waves truly takes you out. Moving on to Shoto Todoroki, and against him, you'd only survive 7 minutes. If Shoto hits you with an ice attack just like he did to Sero, you'd be absolutely frozen to the bone. Your breath would turn to frost, and from that point on, it's a countdown as hypothermia takes over. Although he did rescue Sero from being frozen solid, if he were to use his fire powers to heat you up in seconds, that's incredibly dangerous, as your body won't be able to handle the temperature changes. So, you're just screwed. Next up, Himiko Toga, and 5 minutes is all you get, if you play your cards right. Start by giving her a compliment. Tell her she's got a cute smile or that her hair looks cute, and you might buy yourself a little time. She'll probably giggle and blush, but don't get too comfortable. Toga's bloodlust will just be too much for her and she'll want to show her affection. So she'll pull out her knife and you'll end up on the ground, bleeding, seeing her smile from ear to ear. Now we have the current #1 hero, Endeavor, and against him you'd only survive for 4 minutes, if you're unlucky enough to cross him at the wrong time. Imagine if you were to stand in his way while he's laser focused on training Shoto. The man's got zero patience when he's in his tough love mode. At first, he might bark at you to move, but if you hesitate or try to argue that he shouldn't be doing this to Shoto, big mistake. His Hellflame quirk would ignite in an instant and you'd be engulfed in intense heat. Within seconds, you'd feel like you're in an oven. By minute 4, you're a crispy roast, and Endeavor's already back to yelling at Shoto to do better. Moving on to the mentally insane villain, Moonfish, and he'd take you out in just 3 minutes. As Moonfish is obsessed with slicing human flesh, you'd have to hide all of your skin from showing. But this would probably be very difficult, as you're just not casually wearing a cover from head to toe when you're outside walking. So this razor-toothed creep would catch sight of your exposed skin, and it'd be game over. If you think you might have a chance of dodging his blade-like teeth, think again. His attacks are fast, relentless, and terrifyingly precise. So by the end of the 3rd minute, you'd be diced up like a horror movie victim. Next up is another villain. This time we have Muscular, and 2 minutes is all you get when you're face to face against him, if you're lucky. Muscular is pure evil, so before he takes you out, he'd want to have some fun first. So the first minute, he's just standing there flexing his insane muscle fibers, grinning like a maniac and going on about how weak and pathetic you are. Maybe you try to run, maybe you try to fight. Doesn't matter. So the 2nd minute, that's when he stops playing around. With one explosive leap, he's in your face, and with one devastating punch, you're sent flying. Against Muscular, there's no surviving, just delaying the inevitable. Now, we have Gigantomachia, and against him, you'd only survive for 2 minutes, and 2 stressful minutes at that. You're just casually walking on the streets when this giant scary figure comes up to you and asks for directions. Just like what happened to Kirishima's classmates, you'd freeze up, unable to get a word out as you're too scared. Unfortunately, Mina isn't here to save you this time, and Gigantomachia doesn't have time for awkward silences. His frustration builds, and before you know it, his hand is crushing the nearest building in a fit of rage. And as you're standing right there, you'd be crushed in the rubble. How long would you survive against the hero killer Stain? 1 minute, that's it. Stain doesn't care about how fast you can run or how hard you can fight. He's all about ideals. The second he corners you, he'll start grilling you, asking why you deserve to call yourself a hero. The moment he realizes you're not up to his impossibly high standards, which is being the next All Might, it's game over. His blood curdle quirk kicks in, freezing you in place, and from there, he's free to take you out however he sees fit. Against Stain, survival isn't about strength, it's about conviction. And unless you're the next symbol of peace, you're not making it past a minute. Let's talk about Inasa Yoarashi, who'd actually end you in just 1 minute as well. If you were to mention that you kinda like Endeavor, boom, Inasa's trauma would kick in. If you didn't know, when Inasa was a kid, he wanted to get an autograph from Endeavor, but he refused, knocked him over, and told him not to stand in his way. So, if you mentioned that you like Endeavor, his emotions would get overwhelmed, and his whirlwind quirk would go nuts. Next thing you know, you're caught in a massive windstorm getting tossed around like a rag doll. Eventually, the winds will fling you straight into the ground, and yep, you'll end up as a pancake. Now, the Sludge villain, and you'll only survive 45 seconds against him. Even if you're just minding your own business, maybe just strolling under a bridge, the Sludge villain will burst out from a sewer grate, grab a hold of you, and it would be game over. You'll be engulfed in a suffocating mass of sludge before you even realize what's happening. You can try to fight back, but good luck breathing while you're drowning in his gross, slimy grip. If you don't have a pro hero like All Might around to save you, you're done for in under a minute. Next up, Dabi, who take you out in 40 seconds, tops. You made the big mistake of telling Dabi that you like his little brother, Shoto. So, the second those words leave your mouth, Dabi's eyes light up, not with happiness, but with his signature blue flames. Why? Because to Dabi, everything bad in Shoto's life links back to Endeavor, and now you're just another example of that. And turning you into a pile of crispy toast is his way of sending a fiery love letter to his family drama. How long would you survive against Mirko? 35 seconds, maybe less. As we all know, Mirko's all about action and doesn't like being annoyed, especially not from some random person. So, if you manage to irritate her just like Bakugo did, you'll be in serious trouble. And because she's so annoyed, she'll use her Luna Arc move on you to send you flying. But as she's just so intense, she'll unfortunately use too much force, and it'll be game over for you. Moving on to Fumikage Tokoyami, and against him, you'd only survive for 30 seconds. If you were to be face to face with Tokoyami in the dark, you're in big trouble. Dark Shadow, his quirk, thrives in the shadows and gets more powerful in darkness, so when he gets out of control, there's no stopping him. Sure, Tokoyami will do his best to hold Dark Shadow back, but Dark Shadow's an absolute beast when he goes wild, so Tokoyami won't be able to hold him back and he'll tear through anything in his path, including you. Now, we actually have Mount Lady, who'd you only survive 10 seconds against. Why? Well, because when she's in her giant form, she won't be able to see you on the ground. And if you're unlucky enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, one misstep, and she's gonna step on you without even realizing it. So, the next thing you know, you're pancaked under her giant foot, and it's game over. Next up is Tomura Shigaraki, and against him, you're only surviving for 5 seconds, as the moment you're in his range, it's over. Shigaraki's decay quirk doesn't waste time. One touch and you're disintegrated into nothing. He doesn't need to throw a punch or even break a sweat. His decay spreads fast and works like a charm, so once he touches you, you'll be turned into dust in 5 seconds. Finally, we actually have Denki Kaminari, and against him, you'd only survive for 0.01 seconds. Denki's quirk, as we all know, is all about electricity. So if he were to hit you with an electrical attack, maybe even his 2 million volt attack, there's no time to dodge, no time to run, you're instantly electrocuted. It's a shocking end and there's no escaping it. That was a good one, right? How long would you survive against My Hero Academia characters? Comment down below. Thanks for watching and watch this video next.